Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I pray that everybody is in the best of health and iman. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alleviate our current situation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove this pandemic from our midst. It's difficult not interacting with people. I mean, if anything, we only realize the blessings of something once it is taken from us. So the blessings of coming to the masjid, offering congregational salat, interacting with one another. I mean, these are blessings that we take for granted, or we may have taken for granted. Now I know I'm in this position where I find my heart yearning to see people and to interact with people, to talk to people. But khair, qaddar Allahu ma sha, this is the decree of Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove these difficulties from us, and those who are making efforts in serving humanity, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them in full in this world and in the hereafter. I was reading Al-Hayat fi Madinat Rasul, which translates to life, or rather how the Prophet's society functioned in Medina. So life in the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it gives a small snapshot of how the Sahaba, they would go about their daily lives. And perhaps if we just go through it, it will be encouraging for all of us to try to accomplish something close to that level. So I'm going to read the Arabic, and those who understand Arabic, they could benefit as well, and then I'll translate it inshallah. But it's quite interesting over here. So the scholar says, وَمَا مِنْ أَحَدٍ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ إِلَّا وَيَعْرِفُ الْحَلَالَ وَالْحَرَامَ. There was nobody living in Medina except they knew what was halal and what was haram, meaning that they were well acquainted with the things which are prohibited, the things which are permissible, and that's important even now. We should be aware of what is halal and what is haram, and the only way to do that is to recite Quran, listen to what the scholars have to say, consult with scholars as much as possible. So the Sahaba, they were people who recognized what was halal and what was haram, because this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desires. Allah desires that we understand what is halal and what is haram. Stay away from the haram, don't go near it, and do that which is halal. وَمَا يُتَعَلَّقْ بِحَيَاتِهِ. They were well acquainted with whatever was associated with living. As far as living is concerned, occupation is concerned, they would immerse themselves in the injunctions of Allah Azza wa Jal. So they were well acquainted with social interaction, social dealings. They were well acquainted with occupation and how to conduct oneself when one is involved in working with people, business transactions, or just serving humanity. Some of them, they were not involved in business. They were involved in raising crops. Some of them, they were involved in serving humanity. They were in those days, there were people who engaged in even medicine. They were engaged in building houses. So they were well acquainted with all of these things, and they knew exactly how to conduct themselves in accordance to the desire of Allah and the desire of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَيَحْفَظُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا يَقُومُ بِهِ فِي صَلَاتِهِ. The people of Medina, they were such people that they would memorize that much Quran which would be sufficient for them to offer salat. So for example, if they were put in a position where they had to become imam for whatever reason, then they would do that. They had memorized this much Quran that they were competent to lead the salah. And this is something that we need to keep in mind, that we should know that much Quran, where if any time we're asked that lead the salah, then we should know that much Quran with proper tajweed, that that we could lead the salah competently. I mean, it doesn't make sense that we remain stagnant and we're satisfied with whatever condition we're in. The Sahaba, it mentions that thumma huwa, yes, mustabirun fi talab al-ilm. They were people who were continuously in the pursuit of knowledge. They were such people that they were in the pursuit of knowledge, meaning that they were not stagnant people. They didn't just stay in one place. They were people who had this ardent desire to learn as much as possible. يزداد كل يوم فقها في الأحكام. That each and every single day they would try to understand the ahkam of Allah, the injunctions of Allah, try to understand the depths of the Quran, because the Quran is the book of Allah. There is so much depth, there's so many nuances, subtleties in the Quran, and the asrar and the secrets of the Quran, they're just endless. When a person reads the Quran, I mean, just imagine, there's so many tafasir, so many explanations, commentaries of the Quran that have been written. The Quran is just how many pages? About 600 something pages, depending on how many lines there are. I mean, there are tafsirs that 50 volume tafsirs, 20 volume tafsirs. I mean, the asrar and the secrets, the nuances, subtleties of the Quran, they're just endless. This is why the Sahaba, they just devoted themselves to the Quran. وَرُسُوخًا فِي الدِّينِ. They had this in-depth knowledge of deen. Because an in-depth knowledge of deen, what it does is that it gives you the equipment to better understand what exactly does Allah desire from you at any given time. وَحِرِصًا عَلَى الْعَمَلِ. Not only this, but they were people that they put whatever they learned into practice. They were such people who put whatever they learned into practice. وَشَوْقًا إِلَى الْآخِرَةِ. They were people who had this desire for the akhirah, that they were eager to see Allah. They were eager for the akhirah. They were people who were not afraid of leaving this world. Yes, they worked in this world, they did whatever they could in this world, but they understood that the end game is the akhirah, that I have to go and see Allah Azza wa Jal, and this was what they were preparing for their entire life, that they were preparing for the akhirah when they have to close their eyes from this world and ultimately see Allah, stand in the court of Allah, and be held accountable for all that they have done in this world. وَرَغْبَةً فِي الثَّوَابِ. They had this desire to gain as much as possible when it came to reward. وَعِلْمُهُمْ بِالْفَضَائِلِ. Their knowledge of fada'il, their knowledge of virtues was a lot more than their knowledge of masail. We are the opposite today. We have a lot of knowledge when it comes to masail. We don't have a lot of knowledge when it comes to fada'il, virtues. This is why the scholars, they devoted entire sections. There's an entire genre of fada'il, books on fada'il, where the scholars, they select hadith that are related to fadila, virtues. And what it does is that when we read them, it encourages us to perform those actions, to read that extra salat, to read that extra Quran, to do that extra dhikr. So the Sahaba, their knowledge of fada'il was a lot more than their knowledge of masail. And their knowledge of usuluddin, the fundamentals of deen, was a lot more than their knowledge of the deductions taken from usuluddin, from the fundamentals of deen. So this was abarun nas quluban. The Sahaba, they were such people that their hearts were very lenient towards people. When they interacted with people, they were very soft. وَأَعْمَقُهُمْ ilman. Their knowledge was deep knowledge. They used that knowledge to better themselves in this world, and they use this knowledge so that they can better understand what Allah exactly desires from them. وَأَقَلُّهُمْ تَكَلُّفًا. They were people who were very easygoing. They were very easygoing people. The Sahaba, I read this right now, you would think that they were serious people all the time. No, they weren't. They were serious when they needed to be serious, and that's when a person has to stand before Allah, when he's doing something for the sake of Allah. Yes, absolutely, they were serious. But when it came to lighthearted talk and dealing with their families, they were easygoing. They were joking around. There's a hadith where some of the Sahaba, they would throw melon rinds at one another. There were people who were constantly, there was lighthearted talk. And the Prophet ﷺ says in the hadith, we can't always be serious. Some people think that, what, deen is, we have to be serious all the time. When it comes to Islam, it's all about being serious. But the Prophet ﷺ, he joked. The Sahaba, they joked with one another. They were people who were they engaged in lighthearted talk. So, these are just things that we should remember. Hopefully, we make dua that we can implement something like this in our communities. But we have to understand, and the only way to understand is by reading about the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reading about the life of the Sahaba. This is an opportune time to do exactly that. Majority of us were sitting at home. The only thing left to do, it's better than watching TV and going on and going to see what's the latest news on the computer and stuff. I would say the best thing to do is to read as much as possible. This is a blessing in disguise for a lot of us. Lillahi alhamd. This is a blessing in disguise that now we can't do anything except read as much as possible. So we should not remain stagnant. Read as much as we can. And hopefully this will edify us. This will better equip us as to what Allah wants from us at any given time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of us tawfiq and understanding. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to do that which pleases Him in this world and in the hereafter. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.